Okay, so we now welcome on a very special guest, Mr. Quincy Amarikwa. He's an 11-year MLS veteran. He's currently a free agent, but besides playing in the MLS, he's very involved in a lot of things off the field. He has his own brand, Perfect Soccer. He also is the founder of the Mental Strength League. Also, he's the co-founder of the Black Players for Change. So, Quincy, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate you reaching out.
Yep. So, first question is, what's one word to describe your MLS career so far?
One word to describe my MLS career so far. Grind.
Yep. So, is there a certain moment or like certain moments or moments that stick out that kind of uphold that viewpoint?
The whole experience, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were drafted in 2009,
Mhm.
and then you got traded to the Colorado Rapids. Can you talk about that experience playing for them and then eventually winning the MLS Cup in 2010?
The experience of getting traded or the experience of being in Colorado?
Just the whole thing, just being traded, and then the team you get traded to wins the MLS Cup.
That's right. MSL Cup. You said that right the first time, bro. MSL Cup is a mental strength league cup. But that process started with me getting the call that I've been traded to the Colorado Rapids, and then you're shipped off. So it's almost kind of like being deployed, right? So MLS contracts with this current single entity system is one that you're under contract with the league itself, but then you're subcontracted out to the club that you play for. So that means the clubs can send you wherever they want across the league. And at that time, that was my first time being traded, and I just looked at it as an opportunity, one that I was excited for, but also didn't really understand or know what it would look like. But regardless, you have no choice. You got to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I got there and kind of hit the ground running in terms of just trying to get an understanding of the guys there and the locker room and the culture and the coaching staff and what their expectations were and how they like to operate. And I think that was the right place for me at that time, because that experience taught me a lot as to what the business of soccer is and the politics of soccer are, and how influential those factors are in your ability to create a name for yourself and also create future opportunity for yourself. So, like, from the perspective of the locker room and the guys, I love that group of guys. I love the culture we built in that locker room, between the young guys and the old guys. And the lessons I learned from, being young and inexperienced at that time, and working with the coaching staff that was young and inexperienced at that time as well too. I think while in it, it's a grind, right? The whole process is a grind. There's a different grind every locker room you enter into. I think that grind and that experience was necessary for me to get to the level of understanding of the game I have now, and more importantly, have the level of communication skills that I have, and ability to build culture, a positive environment in a locker room. And I wouldn't change that experience for anything. It was very difficult. It was hard in many ways, and that experience created a lot of future difficulties for me in different ways, but it also created a lot of positive experiences and opportunities to connect with hundreds of players from all over the world with different backgrounds and ideas and play styles and levels of experience. So
Yeah. So going off that, your play style, you have a pretty unique play style. Where do you think that comes from? Like just grinding, and I've read it's kind of somebody described it as being like a more blue collar player. How would you describe your play style?
I would say so. There's two questions. One, where it started, and what would I describe it? I'll start with how I describe it. I think my fail safe. The thing that is always within your control is the effort you put in and how dedicated you are to what it is that you're doing. So you should always start with that, and then everything else can be a value add. And I think because that's what I start with, that's what most people. That's the thing that people choose to think is all that I bring to the table. So I think I was talking to a younger player that I mentor yesterday in terms of, can you think about when working hard is a weakness? And he said it's never a weakness. And for me, I understand where he's at in the process, and with that understanding, I'm saying there are times where working hard becomes a weakness and it doesn't benefit you. And that's what we're talking about here right now, was specifically in the context of, I think working hard should not be something that isn't a given, but that is not how everybody approaches the game. And I think that approach to the game is something that I was able to build my career around, but it is also something that limits your ability to move in certain directions because that is the only way in which people view your game. So I know you're asking me a couple of questions, but I'd say whether I'm feeling good or feeling bad, I'm in shape, I'm out of shape, my touch is on, I'm tuned in or not, I can always control giving 100% of my effort. So that's what I'll always do. And I think that's what everybody always sees. So the things that I would do outside of the field or when I'm not off the field is learn from the ways in which I made mistakes on the field, or I wasn't fit enough, or I wasn't strong enough, or I didn't understand the game well enough. And that's when I would spend my time breaking down my mentality, breaking down my systems and processes. We talked a little bit about systems and processes before, right? Yeah. And learned from the mistakes that I'd make. But the mistake that I definitely wouldn't make is not giving 100% effort. My 100% might not be good enough today. It might not be good enough tomorrow. It might not be what the people are looking for or what they want. But that is the one thing that is always within my control, and no one will be able to say that that's not what I do. And from there, I believe I can create enough space, create enough time. On the soccer field, you're trying to create space for yourself, right? And more time to make decisions. And by approaching it that way, I created space and time for me to learn the game to the level and manner that I wasn't necessarily taught from a younger age. That transition, the transition that I think we're all in the middle of seeing happen, right, is still happening. So I'm watching how things are moving and playing out as a result of it. I don't know where it ends up or where it goes, but the one thing that I've always made a point to do is share with players like yourself, parents, those who are interested in asking questions on their journey through the soccer world and trying to figure it out, or they have goals of playing pro. Just the truth from my perspective, my experience of what I went through and what I had to figure out how to do to maintain and survive to get to this point in my career. Right. Like, yeah. So that's probably a longer hopefully a longer way of kind of describing that. And then where that started, I'd say that really started at home with my parents, right? I believe I was perfectly parented. Um, I have two parents whose number one priority and focus was their kids and setting them up for success. And my father's Nigerian and Igbo, and my mother's white, German, and Native American from Superior, Montana. So you could maybe or maybe not understand that there are a lot of cultural differences between, you know, Africa and Montana, you know, and
Yeah.
and then being biracial in the middle of the household and being the eldest and only male of three younger sisters. And there's always going to be moments in time where you don't see eye to eye, or you don't agree with the path to get to where you want to go. But we all, what I know to be true is the focus was always on something greater than ourselves. So we're always going to figure it out. And that's Igbo culture. That's the German, German Native American culture. That's just like, that's a fact across cultures. So we might all have different practices and different beliefs, but that core central theme was something that I think was instilled in me from a young age, just from watching my parent, like the world my dad came from and the world my mom came from. Their work ethic and their dedication to being disciplined and doing what they say that they're going to do created an environment where, for myself and my sisters, well, I'll just speak for myself, that made me understand that it made me understand that you're responsible for where you get to in life, and you can always make an excuse for why you can't do something or why something won't work out. But you only need one excuse, one reason for why you're going to make it work anyway. You're going to figure it out. And that's kind of the North Star that I've had, which is why I said my career can be summed up as a grind. But I think that's life. I define life as work, and I define work as passion, and I define passion as something I would do whether or not I was paid for doing it. And I want my life's work to be my passion. And I think that's what most people want for themselves. That's why I see the P for, so here we go, the P for passion in perfect soccer, right? That's what the P stands for. And yeah, not everyone's going to make it pro. Just statistically, that's just not going to happen. But everyone can play the game or be a part of the game if they choose to be and they're passionate about it. So what I hopefully have done the best job I possibly could do in the time that I have had playing was becoming as an effective communicator as possible to share the lessons and the truths, and sometimes they're hard truths that you don't want to believe and or hear, that are necessary to be becoming successful. And I define success as just maintaining a level of consistency in something that you want to be doing, So yeah, that's where I'd say that's where it started, and this is where we're at in this moment.
Yeah. We read that like you have a brand called Mental Strength League.
Yep.
Can you just tell us a little bit about that and what it's about?
Yeah. So the Mental Strength League is kind of the game, right? So we call the MSL is a game of 4D chess. So mental 4D chess, where you're either an active participant or you're steady getting played in the game, right? And the MSL mindset mentality is the mentality you need to accomplish your goals. So very simply put, the process for learning MSL mentality is the Amarikwa process. So it's just a 7-step process that starts with the first 3 steps, which are the 3 S's of self-awareness: self-honesty, self-initiative, self-accountability. And that's the foundation and pillar of the mentality and the mindset. And applying self-awareness and the rest of the steps of the process is how you learn how to survive in the game and how to win the mental battle that you have to, the mental battle with yourself that you have to overcome to get to where it is that you want to be, right? Like, what limits us is our belief systems and our limited belief systems, because we limit what we believe we're capable of doing. And, you know, the Amarikwa process is the process that allows you to expand your mind, expand your belief system, so that you can set yourself up for success.
Great. I mean, I think that was something that really interested me too, because as I've been going on more in life, I feel like the mental side of things just play a lot into just everything in life. So I think that's very interesting, and how I've been reading a lot about that, and I think it's very interesting and very cool that you're doing that.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Yeah. So is there when in doing that, you mentor a lot of players by doing that. So kind of, is that how you're going to move forward in your career if it's not playing soccer? Or how is that? Yeah, exactly. How's that?
How's
Like, is that how you're going to stay involved with soccer, by mentoring players?
Oh, okay. I think mentoring players just was a result of the work that I was doing, like in locker rooms, you know, like talking to your teammates, getting to understand them, understanding who they are, where they come from, what their strengths, what their weaknesses are, and doing the best that, in my mind, I do the best that I can to be the best teammate I can possibly be. And that means being who you need on an individual level on that day, in that moment, right? You might need someone to tell you that you are not doing a good enough job, you're better than this, and I'm disappointed in you today, right? That might need be the message that you need today. And Curtis's message for the day, because of where he comes from and his cultural background, what he needs is he needs to hear the haters want you to lose. Are you going to let them? Right? Jasper might need, he might be going through it. Like, him and his girl fell out. The coach isn't playing him anymore. He just got an injury, and maybe he needs to be reminded of who he is. Bro, so you're going to tell me, you know, the Jasper sitting in front of me right now, is this the Jasper who banged 3 goals 2 months ago? Because, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
What would the Jasper 2 months ago be saying to Jasper right now? Because you better talk to him, right? So the message needs to be tailored specific to the player. And the only way that you can do that is actually understanding who the player is. And the only way you can do that is by spending time getting to know them and understanding what questions you need to ask to get a better understanding of their worldview and how they operate and where they're at in their process and in life and what their goals are. You know, for instance, my goal was never to play overseas. My goal was never to play for a huge club. So what motivates me is much different than what motivates a Durkin, right? So worked a lot with Durkin last year and talked to him. He had aspirations of playing over in Europe and going farther and beyond, you know, and just because I haven't gone overseas doesn't mean I can't share with him experiences that I have from players who I know have played overseas, or things that I think could help him in that process and along that way, without trying to limit what he's capable of because he wants to pursue something that I didn't want to pursue for myself. You know, I think a lot of individuals allow their egos to dictate how they share information, how they help others, how they operate. And I try my best to not allow my ego to be the thing that drives drives my decision making, even though your ego drives all of your decision making. So I know I said that, but it's acknowledging that your ego is what drives you to do what you do. So it's really saying, okay, how do you keep your ego in check? And that ties back again to systems and processes, right? And that ties back into the 3 S's of self-awareness: self-honesty, self-initiative, self-accountability. Hey, I'm honest with myself. I have an ego. I have pride. I have selfish goals and wants that I want for myself. You know, I have self-initiative. I want to take action to pursue those ideas, those passions, those things for myself. And then I also need to keep myself accountable to those goals that I have for myself, and remain disciplined in that. But if I want to self-reflect again, is there a way that I can do that and accomplish that goal that also includes and brings on board those around me? Is it necessary that I step on the heads of all the people around me to get to my goal? Or am I able to reach that same place by lifting the people around me along the way? And for me, I went, okay, well, I don't know if I can do that. That seems challenging. That seems like it's worthwhile. That seems like something that's worth pursuing. And I don't see other people doing that. So let's try that. And if I can pull it off, that'll be great. If I can't, at least I did something that I felt was meaningful, that I was passionate about. And I at the very least, and especially speaking with you guys here today, referencing it, tying it back to the 2010 experience with the Colorado Rapids, I developed a lot of positive relationships with a lot of great people along the way as well too. So for me, and what I talk about in the MSL, the Mental Strength League, is it's creating win-wins for yourself, and figuring out how to take negativity and difficult times and spin them into fuel to propel you forward. So.
Okay. So, yeah, you were saying that like your one of your goals one of your goals was to not go play overseas. I know like a lot of the young players, like their main goal is like, oh, they want to go to Europe, they want to go play for like a big club. Is there a reason like why like you wouldn't? I mean, why you weren't so interested in playing for a bigger club?
Yeah, because I just enjoy playing soccer. I just really love playing soccer. I didn't play soccer because I wanted to be a pro. I didn't play soccer because I wanted to go overseas. I didn't play soccer because I watched someone on TV or I had I just loved playing soccer. It was a means for me to connect with my father. And that's all I needed from it. And I approached every day giving everything, because there's no guarantee that I'll get to play again tomorrow, right? Your career can end at any point in time. I broke my femur at 12 years old, right? So I think that experience probably let me know that nothing is permanent and anything and everything can be taken away from you in an instant. So the thing that I will not allow is to step off the field and regret having not given more effort or gave my all. And effort doesn't mean I run 100 miles an hour every single second of the game and sprinting crazy and all over the place. 100% effort means in focus and dedication in doing the most I can to positively influence and impact the game. And sometimes that means scoring a goal. Sometimes that means defending for my teammates for the entire 90 minutes, right? So for instance, if I was talking with my editor, I'm still needing to get my film from my time when I was playing with Montreal, when I got brought into the locker room to come in and help us on the run to the playoffs. And when I joined the organization at that point in time, I realized the system that Remy had already had in place and the role and responsibility of the forward was not one to score the goals, right? You had Piatti out on the left, you had Elias Silva out on the right, you had Safir Taider underneath in the middle. Those guys are very high-level players, and the job of that forward in that system to give that team the best opportunity to make a run to the playoffs was sacrificing yourself to make runs for the other players, defending and following and just making it a nightmare for the defensive center mid of the opposing team to disrupt their play, and to work your tail off for the entire time. Now, most forwards won't do that because most forwards make their living and make their money off of scoring goals, right? Because that's how most people make their decisions. But in some instances, scoring goals isn't what's in the best interest of helping the team win. I think in that time that I was there with Montreal, I had one goal. But we went on an amazing run, and the game that we lost was the most important game in our run to the playoffs, and that's when we lost to DC United at that time. But that experience let me learn and understand what I got wrong and what I could do better in the next opportunity that I get, and the next time I can take those experiences into the next game and keep building and growing from there. But I just think there's multiple ways to play the game, and everybody plays the game that they think is the best way to be successful for themselves. I think my goal is hopefully to share with others that you can still compete and be a part and excel and not fit the mold and check the boxes that everyone believes you need to in order to be successful. I like the fact that I can show guys that you can not follow any professional sports leagues, not have a favorite team or player, not have any desire to go play overseas, and to all of those things, right? Just like showcasing that you don't need those things to make it, which means you can find out and figure out a way to make it for yourself that's unique to you. I think a lot of players don't try because they don't see someone who looks like them in that position, or they don't see someone who's done it before. And that would be my challenge to the individual, to say, okay, then you be the first to do it. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It doesn't mean you're not going to make a lot of mistakes along the way, but you can do it. And that's what I hope players, people who listen to this podcast, who may have followed me over my career, or will continue to follow me, take away from it. Because I think the mentality, the mental aspect, and the things that we're talking about here are cross-industry, cross-platform. And I hope that those lessons that I've learned on the field and in the locker rooms, and the good and bad, can be helpful to those on their journey and their individual path.
Okay. So as of right now, like I know like you're not, well, like you're a free agent and stuff like that, and you've been doing a lot of like stuff off the field. For example, like the organization you started, Black People for Change. Can you tell us a little bit about can you tell us a little bit about that? Like, was it like sudden? Like, did you have to think about it like a few times, like to create like the organization, or was it just like out of nowhere?
Oh, I mean, I've been a player rep for over 6 or 7 years now. I've been involved with the union since 2009, right? Since coming into the league. And I tell a lot of players and everybody who asks, I think the most important thing for players to learn is the business side of the game, the political side of the game, because that's, you wouldn't want to, you wish it wasn't true, but that's more important than your actual talent on the field. And most people won't tell you that, right? Because if you're a rock star at the politics side of the game, and you're a rock star at, if you're a rock star on that side, you could not be a good enough player on the field, but you can still be in a locker room, you can still be on a team, you can still play on the field. And I think many players can think to a time when someone they know or they believe should not be on the field is on the field, in front of them or ahead of them, right? And there are many different reasons for that. It could be that can be all over the place. but my main point is everyone has that common experience, and everyone has had that time where they believe that someone is in a position that they shouldn't be in, or they didn't earn, or they don't deserve, or because their dad's the coach or their friend is this, you know, they know the right person or whatever. And the thing that needs to be understood is like, that is true, right? That is true. Those are advantages that some people may have over you. But like I said, let's not spend the time looking for the reasons why it's unfair and it won't work. Let's look for the reason why you're going to make it work anyway. You're going to figure out how they develop that relationship and why that relationship is so important, and why and how you'll develop one similar to them or better than them, or you'll do more work or get better at the one thing that will become more valuable over time. I say all of that because throughout my experience and my process of learning the league, understanding the business aspect, understanding the political side of things, and making many, many mistakes along the way, I was always focused and wanting to have more of a seat at the table, more of a voice. I felt as though, players of color, Black players within the league, didn't have a voice, didn't have a say. I would say we had a voice, but our voice didn't result in any tangible change. So people could say, well, you guys have a voice, we're listening to you, we're hearing you talk. But we're saying like, yeah, you're hearing us talk, but you just think we're complaining. You think we're making things up, right? You're not taking what we're saying seriously. And the reason why we can say that that's true is because when we say something or we're asking you not to do something, you continue to do it. And that was my experience for a very long time. And you get to a point where you're constantly questioning yourself, and you're constantly questioning if what you believe is true, or if you are complaining and you are making excuses and you aren't doing the work that you need to be doing to be successful or to be heard. And I think the events that had happened with George, I say all that to say that the events that eventually happened with George Floyd, I think that sparked something within the player pool that hadn't been there, at least in my experience up to this point in time. So we'd been talking, having these conversations, doing the work, building our organization, fighting for an equitable stake in the league and in decision-making processes, but we weren't making any headway. We weren't getting there. But then when that event had happened, it sparked something in the group that brought the players together in a way that hadn't happened before. And I feel that happened because Black players had enough individual experiences to get to a point where being silent about it, or that, not even silent, that you couldn't deny its existence anymore. And that created a space, and we talked about a little bit before, right? Created space where Black players came together to share their experiences, share their knowledge, their frustrations, their lack of understanding of certain things. And we could collaborate and work together and kind of get on the same page in a way that we've never been allowed to get on the same page before that time. So that's kind of like the process in terms of like how it came to be, the space came to be. But once that space was there, I was brought into that space to help organize the group. And obviously, because of my work with Perfect Soccer and my real estate company that I partnered with Mark Pelosi. So shout out Mark Pelosi. And the other things that I've been a part of, I had a level of experience that I think was necessary for the group to be able to organize as quickly as we were able to organize, right? So I was able to pour my 10 years of organizational team building and communication skills into at least a framework of a base level organizational structure for us to start having conversations around, to decide as a group what we want our leadership group to look like, what we want our leadership team to be, how we want to engage in conversations and potential partnerships, and earn our seat at the table. And I believe we already earned our seat at the table with the work that we've done collectively over to this time. But I would say more specifically, educate those who have not been including us in the decision-making process on how they've been doing so. So like how they have not been including us, even though they may believe they have been, and how to work with us in partnership so that we can create the change that we're wanting to see, that I believe everybody wants to see happen more quickly. So that was kind of like just the initial spark of it. So when you're saying like, were you thinking about it? And yeah, I was thinking about it for a very long time, and I was working on all the things that I would need to have in terms of skill set and skill sets and contacts and network and team, so that if and when the opportunity did arise, I'm ready. We're ready. We can execute, right? And I think that's a lot of the work when you hear people saying, it's the work you do when no one's looking, and for how long you're going to do that for. And are you willing to work in the shadows for 10 years to be ready for your opportunity when it comes? And to survive for 10 years, 11 years, 12 years before your opportunity arrives, and to continue to do the work and prepare for a potential opportunity that you don't know is going to come, or if it's going to come, and if it does, what it's going to look like. That comes down to mentality. And what I'm sharing to the best of my ability is the mentality that I had to develop for myself to be able to survive in the soccer world long enough to get to the point to capitalize on that opportunity. And that opportunity was to help the player pool organize in a manner that allows us to not only have a seat at the table, but maintain our seat at the table indefinitely. So that's what the organization, that's kind of the process. That's a process from my perspective as to getting to that moment in time. And what I'm learning and what's great to hear and see is the stories of the other Black players who were on their own journey, and they're learning their own way to survive and make it and get to this point in time to be here as well too. So every player did their part and did work in their own way and figured out a way that worked for them to get to that point in time and that level in their career. And these are stories that I've never gotten to hear before, because they haven't been highlighted, they haven't been showcased, they haven't been shared. And that's why my focus with Perfect Soccer, being a Black-owned news outlet, was to share those stories in context, not taking players out of context, not taking Black players out of context, which is usually what happens. Because we haven't been able to control the narrative of our own stories, of our own lives. It's always people telling our stories for us and taking the parts of our stories that fit their narrative and their goals, or the story they already have in their head, and sharing that first. That's why, the MSL brand, I'm in your head. You guys, you know what I mean? All of this is with purpose, purpose, passion. Right? We control our narrative. I'm in your head. We show up. Thank you. You wanna beat us in our game? Then treat people with respect. Treat people like human beings. Right? Look to provide value to them first before trying to extract value out of them. Try to elevate them, and in turn, they will elevate you. And then we can create a system where we're working together. That's what collaboration is in my mind. And we needed to build SOPs and a process and break it down to be able to share it with others so that they can do for themselves. You may believe that you need people or you need things, but you don't. You need to have the focus to figure it out for yourself, the willingness to figure it out for yourself, but you can want people, you can want things to be there with you along the way. But yeah, I guess there's a lot of lessons and things that I've learned throughout the process, and then just in this process of helping form the organization and put those things in place has been, it's been a trip. This one was a happened quick, I guess, but it happened quick as a result of happening slow over a real long time, right? So it's been a very large buildup over time, and now it's kind of been set into motion. So we'll see what comes of it.
Yeah. So recently, the Real Salt Lake owner has been getting a lot of backlash for his comments about the boycotts of the games the past few days.
Mm.
Is there anything that you and your organization are doing to approach this situation?
Well, yeah, and I mean, we're having conversations internally, but I think it's early days in terms of that. It's early days because I think we're finally getting to see the individuals who have pretended to be in support of players, and players of color, and or maybe they haven't been ever in support, but at least they're showing they're showing it publicly now. I think that's what I'm appreciative of this process most, is just the amount of corruption that I've seen in terms of just backdoor conversations and deals and mistreatment of players, and the things that I've seen are things that I believe will come to light because players are finally not scared to share their stories and how they feel about stuff anymore. And I think that will accelerate the process of us getting rid of the bad apples and the people who we don't want to be a part. We don't want people to be a part if they don't want to be a part of the people, you know? I just think exploitation is not something that I think people are on board with anymore. I think we can see with the access to technology and information that we have today that there are better ways of thinking, there are better ways of going about doing things, and business as usual is not justification for continuing to do things we know aren't in the best interest of, you know, the long-term mental health and success of the people around us. I encourage everybody to share their opinion and to share where they stand and how they feel about things, but I also encourage everybody to be open-minded to the idea that you may be wrong about what you think of certain individuals, or what you think of who people are, or what the intention is, and be open to receiving a message that might not be one that you were open to in the past. Because whether we like it or not, we're all in this together in the human experience. No matter what, like we're here. So we're in it together. We are connected. Even if we're connected by 1,000 steps between the two of us, we're still connected in some way. So the decisions and things that I make and do eventually will affect you in some capacity, in some way, at some point in time in the future or right now. And I think this experience that we're going through collectively is going to, I hope and I believe, give us the opportunity to better understand that we are all human, we are all in this together, and it would be it'd be a more enjoyable experience if we're all mindful of that and just remembering that. Like, give people a break, like cut people some slack, and not only other people, yourself, cut yourself some slack. You know what I mean? Like, life is hard, right? We're all trying to figure it out. We're all trying to work the best that we can. We're all trying to provide for ourselves and our families. And we're all trying to do so in the way that we think is in the best interest of those we care about. So if we can understand that, we can then at least understand why some people have hatred for you or want to see you fail. And we can at least have empathy and still move forward past that. They're not necessary it's not necessary to, and now you guys are getting me to riff because you're talking about things in real time now, right? So this is what I'm seeing. And hindsight's always 20/20, and you can find reason and purpose in anything after the fact. But I think what's most difficult in these times is to navigate the conversations in such a manner that navigate the conversations in such a manner that you allow for the opportunity to be wrong and that be okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's hardest for people to wrap their head around and understand, because in this state of social media and instant communication, the moment you make a mistake, it can go viral tomorrow, and now everyone's dragging you and you're canceled, and like that creates an environment, a world of fear that I don't think people want to participate in, and it doesn't sound fun. Like life is trying things, taking risks, making mistakes, learning from those mistakes, and moving forward and moving on. And hopefully sharing that, so it's a reminder, so I don't forget, right? I guess I'm talking to myself just as much as I'm that makes more sense. I guess I'm letting you guys into my thought process and mindset of kind of talking to myself to remind myself of why bad things happening are good, because they lead to good things. That means things are being exposed that allow people to understand, and then we can address and solve the problem. But that also means it takes time for bad thing. If you get a cavity today and you don't brush your teeth every day for the next 6 months, 1 year, you have a root canal a year from now, right? But the day you get a cavity isn't the day you get a root canal. And what we're talking about here is I'm saying, okay, if you see a cavity today and then you see that people aren't brushing their teeth every day, you know where it leads. You know it leads to a cavity and a root canal a year from now. So I can tell you today, listen, just spend 2 minutes every day brushing your teeth, use this toothpaste, you're good. Just do that, and you're gonna save yourself 72 hours of excruciating pain a year from now, because they're gonna dig out your root canal. You're gonna, your mouth is gonna be terrible. You're gonna do all this and that and the other. But if the person has never experienced that for themselves, can you truly blame them for not taking you seriously in terms of brushing your teeth? Because they can't see that. They haven't experienced it. And they don't see the importance of brushing your teeth. But the moment they get that root canal and they have that, they now know they have that experience. And just because you have the experience doesn't mean you start brushing your teeth again. The person still, what I see is a lot of people get the root canal, it passes, then all they have to do is brush their teeth for 2 minutes every day, and then people just go like, right? So setting context for common experiences so people can understand each other and we can actually communicate and not be saying the same things, but fighting each other. So I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to kind of riff on stuff, share with you how I think about stuff, and think through things. But
yeah,
that's what I think of that right now, what's going on.
For our listeners and your listeners, it's probably the last question. What can we do to further push the message for the BPC?
I think sharing this podcast, right, with someone you care about, someone you love, is a great way to do that. I think spending time amplifying messages that might be counter to your own, seeking out the opposing view after you read something. I think one thing I think our generation has to do on our own until, some people come up with some software to address it because the problems are so large, is take personal responsibility for our media diet. I don't think that that's something that people have ever had to consider before, but with these algorithms and these social platforms, they're hyper optimized to only show you things that are likely to get you to click to watch the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
With that understanding, that means they don't want to show you things that you don't want to see, which means you're creating an echo chamber of only the views and opinions and ideas that you want to see. So it's literally saying, hey, you can choose any varying opinion is tofu, right? Bland, I don't want it, it doesn't taste good. And sorry if you're someone who loves tofu, right? But for most people. And your favorite dessert, chocolate cake, ice cream, whatever's your favorite, is the option that you get to use every time you open your phone. You can either eat tofu or you can eat cake. And the platforms are just showing you cake all the time. That's always around you. And you're eating that and you're eating that and you're eating that. But after 2 or 3 years, what happens if you're just eating sweets and candy and cake? You'll get overweight. You can get diabetes. You can have a lot of issues, hypertension, high blood pressure, all that kind of stuff. Those are all symptoms resulting from the problem of only eating dessert over time. That same way of thinking is how I look at these social media platforms. There's nothing wrong with them. They work. They work extremely well. But we have to work to understand how to have a balanced diet. And I think until as of right now, the onus is on the individual to be mindful of that and to balance their diet. Just like it's your responsibility to not eat cake and candy and ice cream every single day if you want to maintain health and fitness. I think it's the same with the phones and the platforms, because they're very powerful. These very phones, and I'm not bashing them, and I'm not bashing the social media platforms and channels, because these are the very channels that we're using to spread this message and get this out there. So this isn't all technology is bad and social media has ruined this people and all that. No. We did that to ourselves. Social media is a tool. Social media is a resource. Food is a resource. If you overeat food that you shouldn't eat, you can have negative health consequences of it. That's the same with the tools of the resources of the phone. And I think the biggest issue is people, and I've talked about this a lot, it's a lack of self-accountability, right? It's so much easier to blame others for your issues, your problems, what's going on, what's wrong. It's way easier to do that than it is to take personal accountability and responsibility for the role you may have played in the process. And the role you may have played might have been just not knowing. But now you know. So that's no longer an excuse. And that's the point of this. And I appreciate you guys letting me talk and let me speak to your audience and the questions. I'm diligently working on ways to condense everything we just talked about now down into like 5 minutes, because some people won't even get an hour of your time, right? Of their time.
Yeah. Well, I think what you were just saying, it's a very powerful message, because a lot, like, just naturally, what I've learned in my classes, like, our brains just look for confirming information. They don't look for disconfirming information. So with social media, it does that like automatically. It just feeds you what you want to see and keeps it going like that. So
yes.
But yeah, thanks for coming on today, Quincy. We really appreciated you and appreciate your answers to our questions, and really thought you had a lot of very good things to say.
Yeah.
Awesome, brother.